And we are live. How's it going, Mets and overall baseball fans? Thank you guys all so much for chiming in for the latest post-game show here on WardyNYM, as finally, what feels like for the first time in forever, we have a victory to discuss as the Mets defeat the Cincinnati Reds in their Game 2 of the three-game set by a final score of 2-1. Was this a perfect game? Was this anything close to a perfect game? No, of course not. But one thing is certain, Justin Verlander, the other $40 million man in this rotation, at the age of 40, just came out tonight and gave the Mets exactly what they needed, what was nothing short of an absolute masterclass outing, in which if you ask Justin postgame, he'll probably be the first to tell you, I didn't have my sharpest stuff tonight, but I was able to grind things out, get that big swing and miss, get a lot of key flyouts too, and some key double plays, and overall just I don't even know if there was much double plays. I actually correct myself there. But some key ground outs and some great infield and outfield defense. Justin Verlander, shout out to you, my ace, and of course, surprise, surprise, the Mets don't put up any offensive production for their ace, but thankfully it was enough even in this batter's box against the Cincinnati Reds. So guys, we're going to be breaking down everything that transpired in this Mets victory by a final score 2-1, going through innings 1 through 9, key updates on the health front for the Mets, what's going on with the catching position, not named Francisco Alvarez, and a lot more. Again, appreciate everyone chiming in the live show live or on replay right now. Make sure to smash that like and subscribe on for your boy as we break down this Mets victory. Finally victory, as the Mets will now look for their first series victory since their time in LA back on April 19th. It's been that long, and Kodai Senga's on the bump for the early noon game tomorrow or so, so make sure you're chiming in for that one tomorrow, folks, and we'll have our post-game show immediately after. But guys, everyone in the live chat right now, spam some W's in the live chat, but more than anything, get some Justin Verlander hype. I know that we're going to be breaking down the game inning by inning, but I'm sorry, I got to cut right to the chase, and of course, shout out to my phenomenal sponsors on the channel, that being Sora MLB and ManToSleep, but more on them later in the show, because right now, I just want to discuss who was truly the player of the game that we started the discussion of tonight's show with, that being none other than, yes, Justin Verlander. Justin, again, he got the swing and miss, a truly phenomenal outing on his front. The Mets, this is only the second time this season out of over 30 starts that the Mets got themselves a starter that went at least 7 innings, and the other guy was Joey Lucchesi back in San Francisco when the Mets split that series. They needed a dominant start from their ace, and that's exactly what they got. After the first inning where Justin Verlander gave up those 2 hits and that 1 earned run, he was smooth sailing. He retired 18 of the final 19 batters that he faced. The curveball wasn't looking great today, so he said, okay, good to go heater, good to go change, good to go slider, and he was working some quick outs, some quick innings, a lot of 1-2-3s. This is what you needed from your star ace in Justin Verlander, especially with Max Scherzer, who has yet to even return from the neck stiffness. There was some potential that maybe he was going to pitch tomorrow. They would push Senga a day, which they don't mind doing because they're trying to get Senga acclimated to pitching, the type of way that you do in the States versus what you do, which is once a week there in Japan. But no less, guys, get some love in the chat from my man JV. This was so needed, so beyond needed. When the Mets haven't had anything going their way, it feels like, for the past 2 weeks, whether they're having offense but don't have the pitching, or have the pitching but don't have the offense. Like the last time that JV pitched JV's first start, he was more than fine. 5 innings of 2 or 3 earned run ball, but it was the farthest thing from the Mets' concerns. Their biggest concern was providing no offense against, what was it, Michael Lorenzen? No, it was Eduardo Rodriguez, actually, who actually just had another phenomenal outing, and the Detroit Tigers win over the Cleveland Guardians today, so he deserves credit for sure. But no less, guys, I just got to give some love, give some hype to Justin Verlander, because he deserves it. And it feels really nice and refreshing to not come on here for what feels like the first time in 2 weeks and not be ranting and yelling my ass off, part of my friends, as I always have been. I know that's been great for viewership. I know that if you're not a fan of the Mets, particularly the Braves or rivalry teams, you've been loving it. But me, I'm just happy to talk about a Mets victory finally, and when they get a competent starting pitcher, and above competent is what we got here. Shrek, great member of 22 months, says, I think Parada and Vientos would be a better DH option. Parada's way too early. Don't get me wrong, he looks like he very well can have a great career, but way too early. Vientos, yes, I agree. And speaking of Mark Vientos, had another great day at the plate today, had himself at least 3 hits, 1 RBI if I'm not mistaken. He drove in Mauricio had a couple of with tonight. And Gary Sanchez, who made his Mets debut there, not with the Mets, but with the Syracuse Mets, I should say. Gary went 2 for 4 today with an RBI at his debut in this Mets system now. And speaking of catchers, let's talk about catchers briefly before we break down this ball game, before we get in the nitty and gritty, guys. And of course, as you're making sure to smash those buttons, appreciate you all being in here. Yes, we actually have a happy Wardy tonight. Crazy, I know. Who would have thought? Thank you, Justin Verlander. Thank you, the man on the wall behind me, my Cy Young Award winner. He's probably not going to win the Cy this year, but again, happy to have you aboard. Give me more production like this, JV. I don't care that's against the Reds. The Mets needed this. But on the catching front, Tomas Nido was placed on the IL today with quote-unquote dry eye syndrome. Apparently, it's something that he's been dealing with for a little bit now, and the Mets have been hesitant to even bring him in as a pinch runner of recent because of how bad it's been, let alone starting in night games at the backstop position. So Nido, who's been off to quite the abysmal start, not only behind the plate, in which I haven't been impressed by his defense, honestly, and two, with his bats to ball skills, which has been nothing short of anemic, he's going to be getting an IL stint. I don't know if he needs to get his contacts fixed, like what we saw happen with Tommy Pham late in spring or whatever it needs to be, but hopefully Nido comes out of this and actually can see the ball better, so that way we can get some type of production. Because while Nido wasn't anything fantastic last year overall, defensively he was one of the best framers of the game, and offensively he was really, really good at running to scoring position, which was the one bright side of him with his offensive production. So Nido, we know he's not going anywhere on this Mets team right now. Hopefully they can get something more than what they've gone out of him once he returns from the IL, which is exactly why now we can connect the dots as to why the Mets signed Gary Sanchez to that minor league deal yesterday. They knew about this before we did, and you might be wondering then why did they bring up Michael Perez? And I was saying to myself, you don't want Michael Perez or even a Hayden Senger of the world brought up. However, Sanchez was literally just brought into the organization, so naturally it makes sense that they're going to have Michael Perez as the backup catcher for now, and then, you know, if he gets any reps and is terrible, then I wouldn't be shocking if they bring up Sanchez, because Sanchez, of course, has a better resume than Michael Perez in their respective MLB careers, albeit Sanchez is horrendous behind the plate defensively and has no familiarity with these catchers. Maybe some relievers, but none of these starting pitchers for the most part, right? So we'll see what happens on the backstop front. But Francisco Alvarez, again today, he didn't get himself a single. He got on base one time today, at least with a fielder's choice, but Alvarez is still taking good hacks, had one strikeout where he got caught with a slider down away, just seeing experience. And even with Brett Beatty, who's in the slightest slump right now too, had an opportunity with runners in scoring position, couldn't produce, looked really, really strong with the glove again today. And again, we don't need the kids to carry this team. Was a little frustrating to see the Mets again have at least 10 hits tonight, a 306 expected batting average, and yet couldn't drive in more than 2. But again, that's the nature of the ball game sometimes. You're not going to be able to drive them in on a night-to-night basis. And while I would like to see more run production, it wasn't a factor into the Mets losing tonight's game, but rather a factor into the Mets winning. So I will still take that. 2 runs and a victory is still better than no runs and wasting a JV masterclass. So they got the job done. They just need to make sure that next time, all times, but especially when you have your ace on the bump, that you give him production. I know that it sounds like a broken record here when we think of Jacob deGrom. In recent years, he would be an ace every single 5th day, and the Mets would provide no offense. Hopefully that isn't the case with JV, but it's a bad feeling. Anytime there's an ace on the mound, it feels like the Mets get a little too complacent. The same way that as a New York Rangers fan, sorry if that offends you Islanders and Devils fans, but Henrik Lundqvist, a longtime goaltender for the Rangers. You know, how many times was he left out to dry, having to save 40, 50 shots a night because the defense in front of the Rangers just gave up? Igor Shesterkin more recently too. It's like it has to go both ways, right? If you're going to have a great pitcher, if you're going to have a great goaltender, and they're going to come out and give you this production, at minimum, you need to be providing some offense. So hopefully we see more of that. But with that being said, let's break down this ball game now. Again, I appreciate everyone that's been chiming in as we get into the nitty-gritty about the Mets taking a victory in Cincinnati by a final score of 2-1. And as I mentioned, folks, we'll be live tomorrow right after the conclusion of Game 3, and hopefully we'll be discussing a series victory. And then after that, we will more than likely have a new podcast episode, if I had to guess, either tomorrow night or at the latest early Friday around noon or 1 p.m. Eastern with myself, Joe Sorrell, and Anthony Recker. But speaking of updates, we went through Nido, Perez, Sanchez. Brooks Raley started his rehab assignment in Double A, which is good. We need him back in the pen. Need that lefty again. He hasn't been phenomenal every time out there. He's kind of been hit or miss, but Brooks Raley still a somewhat reliable southpaw that you want in this bullpen right now. And thankfully, the Mets did have reliability in their pen for a second consecutive night here. Was sharp with the pen yesterday, aside from Nagosic and the fluke that was. He didn't deserve to have those earned runs on him. But tonight now, Ottavino and Robertson got the job done as the stoppers, as you'd expect. But the game starts early on with Hunter Green. And Hunter Green, the flame-throwing 23-year-old right-hander for the Cincinnati Reds, is off to a great start. We're talking a 1-2-3 inning, striking out the side against the Mets. So the guy who's just coming off of now a new extension of, I think, 5-6 years, $56 million or so. Great for him. Congratulations to him. You know, still struggling with his control and lacks that confidence that you kind of expect with a young flamethrower in the bigs, who, again, has elite stuff, phenomenal electric stuff. But as soon as the opposing team, like the Mets, can really start to tell what's coming out of that hand on the release point, you're going to find yourself in some trouble. And the Mets got him in jams plenty, but unfortunately couldn't execute nearly enough to what we would have liked to see. Give me 1 second, everybody. All right, guys. Now let's break down. In the bottom of the first, Jonathan India, the diehard Mets fan growing up, continues to be great against the Mets with a leadoff single off of Justin Verlander. One of the 2 lone hits that Justin Verlander gave up today. Then Fraley, right afterwards, after 1 out, a 1 strikeout that JV got, if I'm not mistaken, rips an RBI double. It ricochets off the wall, so thankfully it wasn't a home run. It stays in. However, it's a bad bounce. Marte's a little slow to get to it. And then India manages to get all the way home. Yorme couldn't get the relay throw to Alvarez in time. And just like that, it's early 1-0 lead for the Reds. And at that point, I'm like, okay, as long as JV gets in a groove, just need a couple runs here. You know, I was feeling not as lack of confidence as what I felt in recent days with this Mets team. And early on, the Mets have been giving up runs so early in games that, like, it doesn't faze me as much as it does, okay, like, how do they respond, obviously? And thankfully, they would just enough. So, Fraley with an RBI double gets to third base. Alvarez would then throw out Stevenson, trying to get to second base on a stolen bag. Great throw by Alvarez, has thrown out batters in back-to-back nights. That's what you love to see. Then as we head to the second, Pete Alonso takes a hanger right down the dick to left, and that's his 13th home run of the year. Pete Alonso, Big Me Pete, leading all players in baseball with 13 home runs on the year. Surprise, surprise. The best slugger in baseball is once again off to a great slugging start. Brett Beatty will then get hit by a pitch up and in afterwards. Vogelback with a single, but the Mets will not be able to produce with 2 on, less than 2 out, unfortunately. But it would be a tied ball game at least, and you're feeling decent about this game as we go through it, as Justin Verlander himself starts to get himself in a groove. And that begins in the second inning with a 1-2-3 inning with 2 strikeouts for JV. Then as we advance to the third, Nimmo with an opposite field single. Lindor with an unfortunate double play ball, just gets in the glove of whoever was playing third base for the Reds. And if I double check right now, I want to say that was Nick Senzel, and it becomes an easy double up where Nimmo is caught between first and second, and that's a double play. McNeil with a first pitch single up the middle right afterwards. Alonso with a walk, but again, back-to-back innings where the Mets cannot produce. Well, less than 2 out, 2 on. Brett Beatty will not be able to get the production there. Then as we get to the third, Justin Verlander, surprise, surprise, with another 1-2-3 inning. You'll love to see that for JV, continuing to get in the groove, retired 6 straight, and would be more coming soon after. But before we get there in the fourth, Yorme with a double, Alvarez with a walk. Nimmo will then rip an RBI single to right to give the Mets that pivotal 2-1 lead, and thankfully they would never look back. Then as we get to the fifth, Justin Verlander, it was the fourth one of the two, Justin Verlander with a 1-2-3 inning. Once again, JV really in a groove now after what was, again, not a terrible but not great start to the game, rather. And then in the sixth, Yorme with a walk, and also shout out Luis Yorme, had himself 2 hits tonight, a guy that I critiqued a lot yesterday, and that pinch hitting roll with bases loaded, it's not what you want to see, but Yorme hit a double, got himself a single before the night's end. So Yorme, again, starting to get those bat-to-ball skills that we saw last year as a strong contact hitter. Hopefully we can see more of that should he be in the lineup like he was today, starting at second base with McNeil in the corner. McGormay with a walk, then Hunter Green comes out of the game. Alvarez reaches on the fielder's choice, and then that's all she wrote for the sixth. And the seventh, Lindor with a single, his first of the day, would be out stealing second base. A great throw by Stevenson at the backstop position there for the Reds. It was a nice jump, too, by Lindor. Just unfortunate. He got drilled out just like Alvarez drilled out Stevenson, no less, earlier in the ball game. And that's all she wrote there for the top of the seventh. Because in the bottom of the seventh, Justin Verlander, in his final inning of the day, who enters the seventh with 91 pitches already on his belt, gets a beautiful 1-2-3 inning, struck out 2 in doing so, and retired 18 in the final 19 batters he faced today, which is exactly why, as we started the show with, we're going to hop back to it right now, he is our player of the game. You can't do much more than what Justin Verlander did for the Mets. Pretty much single-handedly gave them the victory today, and that's exactly what you hope and expect from your coveted 40-year-old ace. And yes, 40-year-old, $43 million a year, not the most ideal thing that you want to see for a player, but in the sense of Verlander, at least, he was able to give you the production that you were hoping for as a Mets fan, and for the Mets team themselves, desperately needed, as they have gotten no consistent pitching for the vast majority of the season. So shout out to you, JV, once again, for being tonight's Wardy's player of the game. As we get a little bit further before we get wrapping up this thing on the innings 1 through 9 front, there in the 8th then, with 2 outs, Vogelbach rips an opposite field single, May with a single, 2 on, 2 out. The Mets don't convert there. Frustrating again. The Mets had 3 or 4 innings tonight with 2 on, 2 out or less, but just weren't able to get enough there. And then the bottom of the 8th, Ottavino, thankfully, with a nice shine the door for the setup man with a 1-2-3 inning himself. No strikeouts there, but not up Army 1 strikeout rather. And then in the 9th, David Robertson shuts the door. What a saving grace has David Robertson been, right? You needed him most since Edwin Diaz went down in the WBC. He was signed initially be as your setup man along with someone like Adam Ottavino, and now he's coming in as your save artist, a guy who has a whole bunch of experience as a 37, 38-year-old right-hand reliever, and thankfully Robertson shuts the door with these with a 1-2-3 save, including 2 strikeouts. So that is going to do it for your ball game. Mets once again win by a final score of 2-1, and a couple things I want to share with you guys, because I know we got Knicks fans talking in the chat. I'd be lying if I said I didn't have it on my TV right now. You could see it in the background if you're looking through the mirror reflection. So I'm in tune with this Knicks game right now, and yes, I'm beyond stressed out, per usual, if you're a Knicks fan. Yeah, and Jimmy Butler goes down, okay, and again, we're going to focus on this, and then we'll talk about the conclusion of the next game, because it'll likely end while we're still live here. But what I did want to bring up today from what was a really key victory for the Mets is the Mets were able to find a way to win at the end of the day. As frustrating as the offense looked at times, they got 10 hits. That's encouraging. They need to be better runners in scoring position. We're aware of that. But more than anything, now they're in the driver's seat for this series victory. Look, they put up 6 runs and lost 7-6 yesterday with David Pearson shading the bed once again. And what was a last-minute call-up, you can't, I'm not surprised that David struggled. It's like you give him, a small benefit of the doubt of like, okay, he was brought up last minute, but he's just been putrid. We're aware of that. It was a deflating loss yesterday, even though the Mets are starting to rally after being down 7-1, and now they found themselves in a situation, okay, we lost by 1 run today. Hopefully we can get some more offense today, or at least get the victory. The offense wasn't necessarily there too much, but we know it's going to break out. You're seeing those signs of light. Starling Marte in the bottom of the order now in the 6th spot, just above the bottom, I should say. He's still missing on his location with sliders right down the pipe, heaters too, but I think Marte is going to snap out of this funk soon too. He's taken some better at-bats than what we've seen earlier in the season, so that's encouraging. Beatty is in a slight funk right now, but I know he's going to come out of it, and he's a rookie. No one should be shocked by that. And overall, this lineup I do like. I think there's plenty of positives in this Mets lineup. It's still way too reliant, of course, on the big boppers and Alonso and Lindor especially, but you know that as long as this lineup can produce the way that we expect it to depth-wise, that they should be able to, again, give you competent baseball on a night-to-night basis, and hopefully give you some exciting baseball at some point as we get deeper in the season. But when you look at the production also of Ronnie Mauricio and Mark Vientos, who, screw it, let's just look it up right now. I'm going to look it up on my phone, just see how exactly they're doing right now. Syracuse Mets stats. Going to pull that up right now. Give me 1 second. Syracuse Mets, I don't know if they won or lost their ball game today, but I just want to share box score-wise how they were. Here we go. Okay, so Syracuse Mets won today against Buffalo, which I believe is Toronto's affiliate, by a final score of 8-7. They're 16-19 on the year. And when we look at production today, Ronnie Mauricio is currently at a 338 average with a 962 OPS, and he did start at second base today, might I add. So he's continuing to get more reps at second base and some in the corner versus playing at short, which is encouraging. That's what you want to see, and that's why it wouldn't shock me if Mauricio is brought up this year, potentially even prior to the All-Star break. So Mauricio's killing it. Vientos 3 for 4 today with 3 RBIs, a 353 average, and a 1,158 OPS on the year for Marky V. He also has 12 home runs on the season too. Not bad company if you're Mark Vientos, and this is exactly what you want. And hopefully, if the Mets are going to bring up Marky V soon, he could be that power DH that this team has desperately been looking for, and maybe take away a little bit from that idea of platooning constantly in that spot. Vientos having the reps that he did last year too, I think is vitally important, to kind of give him a taste of what it's like at the bigs. And something that's really standing out to me this year about Mark Vientos is not only his scorching hot start in AAA, but if you look at the previous years in his career in the minor leagues, the past couple of years, he has been a slow starter. Usually throughout the first month and a half, 2 months of the season, he does not have a lot of offensive production. He's usually low on the average, big swing and miss. However, his adjustments are full through and through to start this year. He looks like a guy that, again, had that taste of the bigs, knows what it takes to be in the bigs, and desperately wants to be with this team. So whether it's Vientos, who I think is most deserving right now, given the Mets team needs at the end of the day, or Mauricio, or both, I think there's fair arguments to be said that these guys, they will be with the Mets this year. I feel very confident in saying that. And with McNeil being to and left as much as he is, because you know Canna has been consistent there, not only with the defense, but he hasn't been there either when it comes to the bat-to-ball skills. I mean, shit, you go from having potentially Guillorme at second base, who's always defensively minded first, to potentially Mauricio, who, granted, while he's more swing and miss, not a big OBP guy, he does not take his walks a lot, he puts the bat on the baseball, and every single time he does that, his exit velo, like yesterday, 5 or 6 or 7 of his exit velos, all of them were at least 100 miles per hour, and they were topping out around 110. I mean, Mauricio's raw power and raw potential right now is through the effing roof, and he's even surprising me over this past year just how much he has grown in this fast pace. I mean, he hasn't skipped a beat since starting the year in AAA for a guy that went through his fair share of struggles and parts of AA last year in Brooklyn. So, Bennington with the Rumble Ponies. So Mauricio's taking major strides in the right direction. And as Anthony Recker was pointing out, I have to agree with him on, the Mets don't need Mauricio to be this big walks machine. The Mets can have Mauricio brought up, start at second base a lot, put McNeil in the not in the hot corner, but in left field. And while he might be more swing and miss, that raw power, that threat, as long as he can catch up to the fastball in the big leagues, I mean, that can really do it for this lab. That can be the power that this team's needing. Opposite field power that we already see a lot when it comes to Beatty and Alvarez yesterday too, and let alone Vientos on what he can do. I mean, there are truly fair arguments as to why all these guys rightfully should be on this roster at some point this year. It made perfect sense for them not to all be on the roster to start the year. I can't believe we're already in May and both Alvarez and Beatty are producing on this roster. That's the Alvarez one is what surprises me more. Beatty I expected, but Alvarez is really stepping up like no tomorrow. He's looking more mature by the day. So I think there's a lot of untapped potential here with the Mets internally that hopefully they have their answers with the power, with the overall offense, the highs and lows. I really think that they may have something here internally before they have to consider potential external options down the stretch leading up to the trade deadline. So that's just my thoughts on Vientos and Mauricio now. I'm beyond encouraged with what I'm seeing, and hopefully we get more of that. But guys, I of course have to let you all know about one of our 2 beautiful sponsors on the channel briefly. That is my great friends at Sora MLB, that you can click the link either in the description, the comments below, people on replay, or if you're watching live now, you could click the link that's pinned in the live chat to sign up free. And of course, guys, for those that don't know, Sora MLB, as we discuss every single night here, great partner on the channel, is the best MLB fantasy game out there. You create your own teams. You sign up for free. You don't have to spend a dime. You make your own teams. You draft your teams with a limited amount of gems that they so-called give you. You enter tournaments weekly, and how you perform in these tournaments is directly in hand with how the players perform in real life. I have 2 tournaments going right now. One's far better than the other. I'm right under 2,000 out of over 11,000 people right now. The only reason why I'm not doing that good is because Lance Lynn absolutely shit the bed for me and his start for the White Sox against the Kansas City Royals today, no less. And Cody Bellinger wasn't able to provide anything, even though he's playing right now and has another game tomorrow. So What I love about this game, though, and exactly why I would be playing it right now, even if they weren't great partners on the channel, exactly why they're partnered with the MLB and partner with all your favorite MLB content creators, not named myself, in which I have great relationships with them all, thankfully. But this game is so much fun. You enter, and if you do well in these tournaments that you enter as being the own GM, the own manager of your teams, you collect these cards. You can buy, sell, trade, of course, just like how you would do with normal cards. You can do here in an NFT format where they're unique to you. You buy them, they're your own on the blockchain, which is very dope. But if you do well in these tournaments, if you rank in certain percentiles, you will win either free tickets to your favorite team's baseball games, free merchandise, free money, hundreds if not thousands of dollars entering exclusive tournaments, which is so sick, and a lot of other great prizes. Again, all you have to do is sign up using the link in the description and the live chat or in the comments below. I highly implore you guys to sign up. We're getting so many clicks. We're getting a lot of sign-ups, but especially, guys, we're going to be doing a big giveaway on the channel soon for a free Mets jersey, and the only way that you're going to be able to enter is if you sign up to Sora MLB and you show me. So, especially if you guys are signed up right now, shout out to you guys, people you guys tag me on Twitter all the time, but shout out to Sora MLB for being a great partner on the channel. Please make sure to check them out. Sign up, baby. It will be worth your while, I assure you. And I love this game. And I killed it my last tournament. I'm hoping that I get some late life, tomorrow in my final games for a lot of these guys. If not, that we bounce back. And of course, the lowest reward that you could get is free cards to upgrade your team from what it currently is. And that's why I have some dope cards on my roster as is. But shout out to Sora MLB for being a great partner as always. And one more thing, guys, we might actually be starting an exclusive league soon where if you guys sign up, you can join a league where the tournaments are only with everyone that's signed up using my affiliate link, and I'll be in it too. So it'll be very exclusive. It might only be out of, say, a couple hundred people for however many sign up, and that way you guys will be playing against fellow Mets fans or whoever signs up using my link, and I will be in there too. So you guys can basically face off against me how you normally would do in your fantasy league. So a lot of fun, a lot of exciting stuff, and once again, shout out to Sora MLB for being an absolute beauty here on the channel as always, guys. But I know there's a lot of Knicks fans stressed out about this Knicks game, as am I. They're getting close. They're trying to push this to a game 6 back in Miami, so I will not take up much more of your time, guys, as we're waiting the final results of this basketball game. If you're a Nets fan, you're a Nets fan, right? If you're a Sixers fan, I don't know why you're watching, because if you're a New York fan and a Sixers fan at the same time, I mean, I don't know what's wrong with you. Your parents did something. They did something. Knicks are currently up 109 to 103 with 25 seconds left. And you know what? I'm kind of in it a fuck it mentality. Let's just roll. Let's roll. Let's do play-by-play. And I know if you're not a Knicks fan, you're going to hate this, but I don't care. This is a big game. We're locking in for a couple seconds because we went over everything about this Mets game. All right, for 3 is Lowry, and he misses. Rebound goes to Mitch. Toss to Randall, and he is fouled. Okay, so Mitch is going to go to the free throw line. Of course, Mitch has no arc in his free throws to begin with, so we'll see how he does here. But the Knicks are currently up by 6 with 21 seconds to go. They're down 3-1 in the series, Miami, and they're looking to bring things back to Miami for, at minimum, a game 6. All right, let's see what happens here with Mitchell Robinson, who's about to get there and get some free throws. Again, no arc in his throw whatsoever. So I'm curious to see what he can provide here for Mitchell Robinson. If you're just chiming, I appreciate you guys. We went over the Mets ball game, so now we're seeing the end of this Knicks game as Mitch, even with no arc, gets that one in. It's a 7-point deficit for the Miami Heat as they are trying to end things in just 5 games. Again, the Knicks back at the Garden tonight have had a very strong game, one of the best games the best game you could arguably say the Knicks have played this entire tournament, because even when they lost in their even when they won game 2 in the series, it was without Jimmy Butler, and they were giving up way too many threes to the Gabe Vincents of the world. Julius Randle just knocks one in, and that is just about going to do it. 17 seconds left. Knicks up 112 to 103. Jalen Brunson with the rebound, and the New York Knicks are taking this back to Miami for game 6. Let's fucking go. There's not a lot to be excited about if you're a Knicks fan for many years. But right now, the same way a Mets fan, you haven't had much success. This was huge. Massive, massive game for Randall, for Brunson, everyone involved. They secure the dub. They take it back to Miami. And again, I don't have an overwhelming sense of confidence there in Miami, but the Knicks are making a series out of this, and that's all you can ask for. Give them credit. This was easily the best game that they have played so far in this series in the semifinals against the Miami Heat. So you love to say that. And I might be, and guys, I'm not way behind. The only issue is that naturally this stream is delayed. I had the Knicks hat on the side, but I purposely waited to put it on to see what the result of this game was. Jalen Brunson, 38 points, 12 for 22 from the field. You'll love to see that. Let's go, baby. Let's go. Knicks suck. It's okay, Leroy. It's okay to not be a Knicks fan, but you know, that's about going to wrap it here in a minute. Again, this is not only a Mets victory night, this is a Knicks victory night. If you're a fan of the orange and blue, you are going to bed sleeping like a baby, which is exactly why I know I'm going to bed sleeping like a baby using my beautiful ManToSleep Mask Pro, and that is why they're a phenomenal partner here on the channel. ManToSleep, for those that don't know, are the best and most affordable sleep masks on the market. We have had a boatload of you guys not signing up, but clicking the link in the description, rather, using my promo code Wardy for 10% off. I mean, you guys have been raving about these things, as have I. I sleep like a baby with this. I know I am tonight, sucking my thumb like a little baby. You heard that right, folks. After you get the Knicks and the Mets to win, if you're a fan of both teams, you love it. If you're just a Mets fan, you still love it. JV shoving, going 7, only allowing 1 earned. But to talk to you guys briefly about ManToSleep, my great friends here on the channel, guys, they have all your sleep mask needs. They literally have a Bluetooth mask if you want to go to bed, you know, not only sleeping like a baby, but maybe you want some whale noises. Maybe you want some nice Rolling Stones. Whatever type of sound or music you want, you get that with the Sound Mask. The Pro Mask, which is the best seller, which is the top right. How you doing? That's what I love the most. But more than anything, you have some other really, really sick options. We're talking about a weighted mask where you can actually have a little bit of weight on your face if you want that at night. The one that I want most, that I've yet to receive, I'm going to be getting it soon, that I've heard a lot of you guys rave about after purchasing. Again, you can click the link to not only buy, but use my promo code Wardy for 10% off in the live chat in the description down below, or for comments on replay, it's pinned there too. But Manta Cool Mask, you love to see that. Such a great thing that has coolant around your eyes. So for people who go to bed feeling like they're in a sauna like I am after post-game shows, you need that. Or the opposite, if you're going to bed cold and you want some heat on your face, around your eye sockets, you get the Manta Steam Mask. So Manta has all your sleep mask needs. I've never been a sleep mask advocate until recent, after this bad boy came in my possession. And then 2 weeks later, I said, I got to bring you on as a partner on the channel. They're more than interested. So happy to have them on, and so happy to hear from you Mets and overall baseball fans. Whoever you're a fan of that purchase these things, using the link in the description and the live chat in the comments down below, and using my promo code Wardy for 10% off. Again, that is promo code Wardy for 10% off. Shout out ManToSleep for always giving me a great sleep at night, and I surely will be tonight. And with that being said, guys, that's going to do it. The Knicks win by a final score of 112 to 103. The Mets win by a final score of 2-1. And now I am going to go get some shut-eye and ready for a Kodai Senga start early tomorrow. If I had to guess, I think it's 12:35 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. Could be wrong. Regardless, excited for that Mets game. Hopefully they get the victory, and hopefully we see at least a productive Knicks game there in Game 6 when they ultimately go back to Miami. Thank you guys all so much for the support. I apologize to everyone that I made cringe, that are not Knicks fans, but again, you're going to live. You're going to get through this. If you're a Mets fan, you could surely get through at least one night of Knicks fandom, right? Again, appreciate you guys. Love you all to death. Thank you so much for the support. As always, let's go Mets, baby. Peace out.